started. Everybody in the room? Real call.
Rhea will immortalize us on tape.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming out in the cold. This is a meeting of the general membership of the Drum Point Property Owners Association. The meeting is governed by Robert's Rules of Order. And also, although we don't have a huge crowd today, we do have a quorum at this meeting. And the reason we do is that at the last meeting in September, we also did not have a quorum. And, but at that meeting, the members present voted that there would be a quorum at the next general membership meeting. So I can read you the sort of letter of the law if you want. I'll read this. And Gary Heel, our president, is who sort of explained all this to me. So at the general membership meeting, all meetings will be conducted according to the Maryland Code of Corporations and Associations, which states, if the number of members present at a meeting does not meet the requirements of a quorum, those present may call another meeting to meet quorum requirements. At the additional meeting, the members present in person constitute a quorum. So even though we don't have a head count today that constitutes a quorum, we do have a quorum because the members voted last time that you would be a quorum. So we have some things to vote on today, and we'll be able to do that for that reason. So my name's Libby Fall. I'm the vice president of the board of directors. Gary Heel is our president, is away on travel, so he couldn't be here today. So I'm going to chair the meeting, and maybe we'll just have the other board members introduce themselves.
Tony Spakowskis, board member.
Jack Andre, treasurer.
Maria, manager.
The office manager, the association manager.
Kurt Larson, director.
John Rivera, operations.
So I know that many of you probably all know each other, but do we have any first-time attendees today?
Any what?
Oh, okay, we do. We have some newcomers. Okay, well that's terrific. So maybe during the public comment period, if you feel like it, you can introduce yourself. I'll just mention that this time last year, I was a first-time attendee. And look at me now.
Yeah, well,
So it's what happens if you don't keep moving too fast enough, they catch you. But actually, one of the things we're going to do today is have a nominating committee, and the volunteers who serve on the board are important to keep the place running. So I just want you to be thinking about that as you're sitting through our meeting. So, of course, Gary's not here, so no real president's remarks. I'll just say that, just as by way of update, although we'll hear more details from the committees, the road work was completed for the year. So the plan for Drum Point is that we have roughly 20 miles of road that we maintain. So we repave and restore 1 mile per year. So every 20 years we get around to each mile of road. So up on Deer Drive, that was restored or repaved this year, and you'll hear more about that from John Rivera. We also did some repairs to the drainage and swales that are important for keeping the water for people's homes. We have, at this point, suspended the right-of-way maintenance, which is all the mowing and cutting and so on that we do to keep the, okay, this is Paul Walker, another board member and secretary. So we have suspended the right-of-way maintenance, and that equipment has been put away for the year, for the season, to be, sort of repaired and oiled and repaired as needed. And we have the snow removal crews set up and ready to go. And I can tell you that I was, last winter, it was my first winter here in Drum Point, I was really impressed with how quickly and well the snow is removed.
Can't hear.
So, okay, so we will be hearing from the committees further, but that'll conclude the president's remarks in absentia. So next we have the approval of minutes. Now this is another somewhat complicated matter. We don't have minutes from the last meeting because it wasn't really a meeting. So the minutes that we have to approve are actually the June minutes, because they couldn't be approved in September, so we're going to approve the June minutes now, because we have a quorum. So, do I have a motion to approve the
I move the minutes be approved as submitted.
so we have a second. Is there any discussion? Any discussion or questions about the minutes? Okay. Well then, okay. So all those in favor of approving the June meeting minutes, just raise your hand. And any opposed? Okay, so the meeting minutes are approved from the June meeting. So then, next on the agenda are the committee reports. And let's see, if we want to maybe start with the fund. Do you want to talk about the budget, finance? Okay. Okay, good. So John Conjure can talk about the budget.
We got two budget documents that were in the handouts. The balance sheet shows that we're in pretty good shape. We still have some bills to pay, but we have ample funds to cover all our bills, plus expected expenditures, snow removal, and other things that we're expecting to come up for the end of the fiscal year, which will be June 30th.
Can you speak up, Jack?
Sure. And more detailed list of these expenditures are in the office. I don't know if they're on the website as well. No, they're in the office. So if you wanted to review all of the expenditures that are on the second document, which is profit and loss, budget versus actual, you can view all those. I think you'll see in all of those documents that we are on track within budget on almost all items, and overall well within our budget for the end of the fiscal year, June 30th. Other couple of items is that the annual audit, the auditors flagged a couple of items for the board to take action on. One was allowance for doubtful accounts, so we're now starting to look at and write off some of the doubtful accounts. Just a very few lots, turns out vacant lots, where the owners simply just can't be found. It costs too much money to track them down, so as the auditor suggested, we are starting to look at those and one by one making allowance and not pursuing those.
Jack, roughly how many are there? Anybody idea?
$14,000 I think in total is owed that we cannot track down people, we cannot find them. A lot of them are deceased, vacant lots, heirs that own the property now cannot be found. And apparently the county is not getting taxes on these things either. The county doesn't pursue these in many cases. So we're pursuing, what we can, but have to, some are just not worth, how many lots, maybe 4 or so?
No, more than
That
that.
we're still pursuing.
We're still pursuing it. It's just simply that I wanted accounts receivable to be a little more accurate in this depiction of what we're likely to collect. And so then I spoke with the auditor, and they agreed that it would make sense to put them into an allowance for doubtful accounts, which you can see on the balance sheet. But that's not to say that we're not going to continue to bill these people and continue in attempts to find them. But some of these accounts are people that I've never had a good address to, and I've been here 11 years. And their mail has always been returned to me. So it makes sense to go after those that I know they're living there. Kind of a thing. So it's not as though we're not going to keep these on our record and continue to approve those bills if the property should ever turn over. We want to have a chance to collect it. It's just not going to be actively pursued like others are.
And it costs money. It if you do want to reapply, it costs, if you want to file a lien or something, that would cost attorney funds plus fees at the county, so just pursuing the ones that just make financial sense.
So is this $15,000 an annual amount, or is it a cumulative amount?
It's cumulative since forever.
Okay.
What was the answer?
It's cumulative.
Accumulated, thank you.
The only other issue from the auditors was they suggested that we divide up checking accounts so that we're always under the FDIC minimum, which I think is $100,000 so.
250.
So we had to open up some new accounts to keep all the balances below that. Sometimes during the year, we'll go above those balances. It's a remote possibility that any bank would have a problem, but still it'll keep us below the FDIC minimum. Yes,
When
sir?
you say split them, you mean you go to different banks? Not just a different account at the same bank?
In this
different
case,
banks.
Different bank.
Okay.
Maria, approximately how many lots are there in that,
And the ones that are being,
of the doubtfuls?
so far, I apologize, I didn't get that number, I probably 20 right now. But I'm continuing to file claims, so as I come across these, I'm just going alphabetically now. I did go by the amount, but now I'm just going alphabetically. Yeah, so 20 so far.
Yeah.
There'll be more. There will be more.
So is there a lien against those properties? In other words, if they changed hands, would we then collect from the proceeds? Let's say
If
that-
they change hands, we should collect, unless it's a foreclosure. If it's a foreclosure, you have to give credit from the date of foreclosure back. So that we never would recover. But if it were to change hands, and what should happen is I should have a phone call from the title company. Is this account current? No, please collect X number of dollars. That usually does happen. Once in a while, they don't make that call, but it usually happens. So at that point, we would collect it. I bring it back out of allowance for doubtful accounts. But we don't really file liens as such, we file a claim. And then that goes through different steps. And the one that I pursued, through all the steps, a bench warrant was actually issued, because the man never showed up at court. So eventually they'll issue a bench warrant, then if he gets pulled over for speeding or whatever, he got taken to jail. Did my heart good. He came in like 2 days later and he was laughing. He wasn't upset, he knew he was wrong. And he paid me like $500. By the time all those fees accumulated, he owed me 200 more, not me, us, 200 more than he would have if he could just paid it. So that's the outcome. Eventually, if that didn't happen, a lien could be filed on the property, and when it was sold, then you would collect. But it's just never gone.
Property,
Right.
processing.
Well, people are paying.
Yeah.
I mean, since November of last year, between a letter that was sent to people who were badly in arrears, and then all these claims that I've been filing, I've collected more than $20,000 on these past two accounts. So it's well worth the time that it takes.
Yeah, that's worth noting. I mean, it's not all, we have a lot of successes where we just spend some time going through paperwork and all the steps and small claims and is bringing in a good deal of revenue as a result of our efforts.
And that's it.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Jack. Let's see, Peter, did you want to make any comments regarding the safety committee?
Yeah, I'll just say two things. One, that winter's approaching, and we asked all our host association members to prepare for electric outages primarily is the problem. But if you get your electric out, you lose your water because we're all on wells, and your septic system probably won't be getting the normal water that they would. So think ahead. If you see a storm coming, put away some extra water, put it in a garbage can, or if you're near the creek, have a bucket. But think ahead what you can do to prepare yourselves for electrical outages. That's the primary problem we have. The other is snow and ice. So if you see some issues, think ahead of time. If you are concerned about your safety in terms of what the association can do, please let Rhea or me know, or any board member. in terms of the roads and your communication. We do have sort of a first aid station in the office, as well as a communication set up where we can communicate directly with the Emergency Operations Center. I welcome anybody to come by, take a look at what we have. We have stretchers, first aid equipment, deployable tactical radios, primarily to use after the storm or after the event to mitigate and find out what the damage is in our community, because we are responsible for a lot of issues because we are a homeowners association. And the volunteer fire department has been very good at coming to help us. But it's up to us to really identify what our problems are, and then we can flag that to either the Emergency Operations Center up in Prince Frederick or to the fire department or the ambulance. That doesn't mean they won't respond to 911 calls, they have to do that. But in terms of trees and our roads, we are responsible. The reason we have a setup is that we have to, when an event occurs, we want to coordinate on maps and figure out what our priorities are and what roads to clear first. We have a contractor 24/7 to help us clear the roads, but when the telephone lines go down and the electrical lines go down, it poses a real problem, communication. But then also, if it's if it extends the county resources may be devoted elsewhere. So we have to see what we can do to help each other out. And that's why we have this coordinating center. So come by anytime, ask for information about it, and Rhea and I will help you. We have video cameras set up in certain places, specifically the beach, and it's been a deterrent for keeping some of our vandalism down. We have primarily, we don't have a lot of crime, but occasionally we have vandalism and trespassing. But things have worked out this year on the beach, I think, fairly well. We've had a few minor incidents, but the whole idea is to prepare and to keep our community safe. And so far, I think our track record's been pretty good the last 10, 15 years that I can think of. But thank you for your support. If you have any questions, please address them to the board or to me, and we'll be happy to address those. Thank you.
And Peter, thank you. There was also one thing I think I'll mention during your report, because there was one of the neighbors who called into the office with a comment that she wanted to share at this meeting, or have shared at the meeting. And her comment was, it's kind of a safety thing, that's why I'm bringing it up now, but that it's not a good idea to deposit yard waste on the vacant lots. Because she felt that it was a safety risk, maybe a fire risk, or created or worsened a potential fire risk. And so I don't know if that resonates with you, but I thought I'd bring it up during the safety committee because she was raising it as a safety issue.
Yeah, well, fire is, in the summer, a huge issue here. We've had fires down here, down at the Drum Point Club, and fires, when the breeze is blowing from the south and it's very dry, if the fires get up in the foliage, it's almost impossible to stop. And it would put a lot of us at risk. So yeah, fires are a big concern, and the grilling and people burning their leaves, it's all of some concern. Yeah, thank you. Well, I don't know what we can do about that, because it's the neighbor's yard or that really have to deal with that issue. I don't know that the DPPOA has any control over that.
Yeah, I think it was just a comment to
Yeah.
everybody.
We can encourage our neighbors to try not to do that. I know it's done periodically.
Right. Okay, thanks, Peter. Paula, did you want to report from the
Sure.
welcoming committee?
Sure, we had a meeting last week and we did some brainstorming, but before I start, a couple of years ago, Amy Rispin had the idea of setting up what a lot of communities have done called the free library, It's, if you've seen it, it's outside our office now. There's one down on the island, outside of the cafe. I forgot the name of the cafe. It used to be Lotus, right. And the same gentleman did ours. And it's really a great thing to stop by, pick up a book. In the winter, you've got, just, it's right by the office. You can go in the circular drive, pick up a book, drop off a book. And I think there's more books in the office when the office is open.
There are a few,
Yeah, okay, so it's another opportunity to go into the office and say hello to Rita, which I'm sure she would love.
I would.
Yeah, okay, that's right,
It's
okay.
lovely.
Yeah, so that's, Amy Rispin had that idea, and I just found out somebody to do it, so we're very pleased with it. It's been up about 6 weeks now. During the meeting, we did some brainstorming about newcomers. We have run a couple of events that were not that well attended, and we understand that everybody's lives are busy, and it's hard to stick one more meeting in. So we're trying to find other alternatives. One thing that was discussed was a more interactive website where people could look at things that are happening and posts, and I've been involved with that in another community. So, and then also, just to maybe enhance when we set up the dumpster, I call it the dumpster, what is it called? The Community Cleanup Day. Dumpster Day. When we do Dumpster Day.
Dumpster diving.
I love Dumpster Day, by the way. Spread the word because you get some really good stuff.
It's really redistribution of
It
wealth.
really is. And you get a lot of people that you've never seen before. They're probably not from here. But, but those that are, it's a good opportunity for the board members and for people to speak to each other and kind of get an idea of what they would like from us. And I'm not saying swimming pools and playgrounds. I'm saying, is the meeting time okay? Would you prefer it on a Thursday? Some kind of stuff like that. If you had to have another activity, what would you like it to be? So we're going to do kind of a very random, low-key, ask people at the next meeting, just be there and ask them questions and try to find out what people want, because we don't know at this point. Our community is very diverse. And let's see. And then we talked about possibly adding a shredder to cleanup day, which of course is my desire, because I have so much stuff that I would like for somebody else to get rid of. And so that's about it. So we're moving forward and looking for ideas. There's currently 3 of us on the committee now. Anybody else that would like to join? We'd love to get somebody who was, just my personal thing. I'm not speaking for the board or Rhea, but to get somebody that was like a webmaster kind of person, so we could fool around with some new ideas. Somebody who was real comfortable with the web, but have I overstepped my bounds?
No.
Okay. Terrible. And then I could take them back to my house and they could fix my computer. Okay, that's about it.
Okay, good, thanks.
Oh, one more thing, one more thing. We really love the Drum Point Day and July 4th. So thank you, Drum Point Club, because that's another good venue for us to get new people to come to.
All right, and then, I keep looking at that way. John, did you want to make some, add any details, make a report on the roads?
Sure.
And,
Okay, so I'll start out by, I'm going to tag on to what Peter said about emergency operations. Yesterday I toured the main operations center of SMECO up in Hughesville. The executive vice president for operations was gracious and took a group of us around so we could see that operation. It's a very new facility. They've expanded greatly their operational footprint so that they can respond to emergencies throughout the SMECO area. SMECO, probably everybody knows, but I'll just give a little bit of history. They started as the Rural Electric Association way back in the 30s. And so their membership is us. We, as the customers, we are SMECO. SMECO doesn't have a stock holding where somebody else gets credit for the money that they raise. And they only make money on their distribution, not on power purchase. So that money, any that they make, comes back to us as members of the cooperative. That can usually happen at the end of the year if they realize a profit on distribution. But they have a very complex emergency response. If you call in as a private customer and say, my power's out, they will look on their master board and they immediately dispatch. They have an automated system that will immediately dispatch or put into dispatch a response truck. If multiple people call in, say, they can identify where in the line the issue has happened. And so they'll back up, and they'll continue to go back up the train to the point where it's most likely that an outage has happened. It's all automated, and it's very, very interesting to see how they can run this operation with just 4 people on a daily basis. They have their 24/7 operation, and they have a monster board that shows the entire thing from Dunkirk as their northern edge all the way over to Indian Head, down there all the way down to the southern end of Calvert and St. Mary's. So they're quite a large operation, but they're there for us. And so if you know any electricians, and they're always looking for people, if you know any electricians that want jobs. But
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Yeah, me too.
In a system like that, can they tell if there is a problem somewhere in the lines, how many people are affected?
yes, they kind of go by how many are calling in,
Yeah.
because that way if you call in, your neighbor calls in, but nobody else calls in, they might know that it's the first transformer on the line down your street.
Yeah.
If people beyond that area start to call in, they'll go uphill or upstream of the power to the next transformer to try to work the issue.
So my concern is, I'm the only guy on my street that stays here during the winter months, and I must be at the bottom of the priority pile. I've been doing very good, removing the trees on the one street that gets me to the main highway, but only on one instant did I wind up 4 days before they finally fixed the power line, which was in front of my house. But you're the only guy. That's what one of the service guys said. If you're the only guy on this street, next door, there's 12 people, and we've got to hit their line, and we're sorry about that, but there's nothing I can do, is there?
Probably not, except I would suggest you keep calling. Don't take one call and say, if you're not getting a response, call again and again. I think they're designed to try to help as many people as they can at one time. So.
SMECO has not been doing a particularly good job on clearing the lines of vines. There's several sections in here, a couple of sections in here, where the vines have come up the pole and down the line, all right? Snow gets on that, those lines are going to come down.
I had mentioned that to the same gentleman about a month ago, and he said call it in, because they have different segments of their organization that work on different issues.
So you're saying we should call in to SMECO
Absolutely,
and see a problem?
absolutely. Call it in and say, hey, these trees have grown over these lines, these vines have grown these lines, we're concerned with a potential outage, and I think they may
All the
respond.
utility poles are SMECOs, right?
Well, if
Some of them
the
are.
pole has power on it,
Yes.
all right, then it'll be a SMECO
It's a SMECO
thing,
pole.
unless somebody has installed a private service somewhere out into middle of nowhere. But example, up by the office, we have a pole in the back of the office that actually services 3 houses. So that would be something that they would be concerned about, is keeping that set of lines clear. So, but actually, call in anytime you have any question on our power, call it in. There's no reason they shouldn't keep those lines clear.
John, hasn't there been crews around from SMECO who've been mapping stuff in the community? Are they the ones who, I think I received this, news in the newsletter, that they would be, crews would be around mapping?
It's possible, I'm not sure.
It's on the website.
Currently 70% of the SMECO infrastructure is underground. So no longer,
70%?
70% is underground. Okay. Now, you don't count the high tension lines because those have to be above.
Right.
But the distribution system, 70% is already underground, and they have a 10-year plan, supposedly, to put the other 30% underground.
Even in here?
That's their stated goal.
Here at the end of the earth.
Whether they get to it or not, who knows, but they've already, they have a plan. Whether it gets implemented and it's affordable, I don't know.
Okay.
It would be good, I mean, just on, let's say my street, it's all underground, but then you go out to the main street, it's not, so it just depends on what you get.
Underground into your house, you mean, or along the driveway?
And along the road.
Really?
Yeah, there are a number of roads, some of the newer developed roads in the community do have underground lines. If you have a green box outside, you probably have a underground line. Okay, let me talk a little bit about some road stuff. As we mentioned, we've already finished the paving out at Deer Drive. For the most part, it went very well. We had a couple of minor issues which we've corrected, including some drainage into a couple of properties. It's anytime you do something new, it's a challenge. So if you happen to live over in there, you should see the benefit. Next year's paving section will be moving a little bit to the north and covering another mile plus of road repair and paving. We've had some drainage issues that we've been working on, Laurel Drive, the water coming, sheeting down the road. The ditch had been damaged or filled in by debris over time, and it was just, instead of using the ditch, it was going right into somebody's front yard. So we're working to correct that, correct some other road damage. I wanted to mention, this may be a little bit more information for our new folks. Anytime we do work in the community, we require property owners to submit both road and septic bonds, so that if you do work on those things and you know it right, we have the ability to push to get it done right, so it doesn't affect the overall community. The roads are the main thing that we do as an association, and keeping them maintained. So a lot of your assessment goes toward that particular part of our operation. So we don't want our roads damaged by a homeowner who thinks, well, I can do what I want. You can't. You got to kind of follow the rules. We had a recent case down in the Bay where the installation of a new septic system damaged the edge of the roadway. Now we're going to require that be repaired before we'll give the road bond back. Or we can use the road bond as an association to fix the damage if the homeowner declines. A couple others, these are just things, the information, and this is kind of from inquiries. We have removal of trees is regulated by the county. But the bylaws only talk about more. It talks about how we would develop a property. It doesn't really get to the individual trees. So if you want to remove a large tree, I believe they're greater than 6 inches on your property, you have to go to the county and get permission. And if you're within the critical area, which almost all of Drum Point is, then you're probably going to have to do some form of mitigation. That'll be up to the county to decide, but you'd have to go up to them for that.
If Smithco doesn't do that, if you have a problem, they just go ahead and fix it. You know, they have a
Right, yeah, they
guy
have,
in the field, because on my street, you know, he was just coming around, and I talked with him, and he wanted to know which trees might be a problem. Told him which ones. The next day, he had his guys down there chopping the trees down, and they find any dead trees along the road, even though beyond the waterfront, they just go ahead and take them down.
Right, yeah, they have an exclusion
Yeah.
from following Rich's rules. They've got to keep those lines clear.
That's all.
The other thing is, they've had a couple of requests in the community for speed control devices. And I can tell you from a lot of work with the Navy that they're a mixed bag. And you install a speed device in front of one house, what naturally happens is the next house suffers. Because the tendency of drivers who are going to misbehave is to, okay, I'll slow down for that speed bump, but then I'm going faster after, because I want to get what I want to get. And people just don't really care. The second part of it is emergency vehicles don't like speed bumps at all. The fire department in particular believes that they damage their equipment and they slow them down unnecessarily in response. Whether that's really true or not, I don't know, but I've heard that in many places I've lived, that emergency is the worst case. Probably the police department doesn't want to have to deal with that either. There are other ways, and then there's the problem with snow removal. Speed bumps impact snow removal equipment. Either you damage the speed bump itself, or you damage the snow plow, which, since we pay a fairly large amount of money for snow plowing, it's another area of concern. So at this point, while it might be nice to try to slow traffic, the demographic of any given area is going to change. Mostly people worry about speed because of small children, or maybe walking. But that demographic can change in 5 years or so. That we no longer have the small children there, might have a different demographic. So some speed bumps are movable, but if you install the permanent ones, then you just spend money that may not have a long-term benefit. So I just wanted to mention that as something that's out there. We're not actually considering putting any in right now, but there have been some questions about it. So I think that's it.
Good, thank you. All right, well, I think that wraps up our committee and board member reports. So that brings us to old business on the agenda. Does anyone have any old business to revive for discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll move to new business. And the new business that we need to talk about today is the nominating committee, which I mentioned earlier. So we do need to form a nominating committee. We will have, each year there are 3 open positions on the board because the 9 board members sort of cycle through their 3-year terms. So, and this year, and we have one board member who will be moving out of the area, so we actually will have 4 positions to fill on the board. So we're asking for volunteers to serve on the nominating committee, and so if we have some volunteers today, then we'll have a vote of the membership to seat that committee. So do we have any volunteers?
My name is Wayne Heidemann. I live on Laurel Way, and I have previously been on the board of directors, and I'd like to volunteer to help with the nomination committee.
Oh, excellent. All right, so it's Dwayne?
Wayne.
Dwayne or Wayne?
D-U-A-N-E. Heidemann, H-E-I-D-E-M-A-N-N.
Okay, great. So this is our first volunteer.
I nominate Len to be on the nominating committee.
He asked me earlier, and I said yes.
You weren't speaking up. Cattle project.
For those who haven't been around, Len has been a long-time leader in the community. He knows the board and its problems intimately, and he and his wife are very prominent members of the community, so he'd be a very good addition to the nominating committee. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't really know him or know this.
I know of him.
No, his reputation is.
This gentleman was talking about roads. I think I have worked every road in this community, either resurfaced, replaced, or something, so I know the roads.
Good. Oh, good. Well, you probably know all the people too, so you can find some. So,
My problem is I forget. I'm getting old and memory shot.
Hyman,
No, no.
oh, Lynn Addis,
And,
Lynn Addis.
great.
Ralph, you want to volunteer?
I've got my hands full.
I'll
volunteer.
Oh,
Okay.
Craig Sellers?
Greg Sellers, all right.
Peter, I'm gonna be asking for volunteers for a nominating committee later.
It's Craig.
Craig, yeah, C-R-A-G.
Well, Gary had suggested we would like to have at least 3, and I think we've got 3.
It would be nice to have a email on that. A different perspective.
Politically correct.
yeah.
I'm not politically correct.
Okay, well, we've got 3 nominees, and so do I
No,
have
the board just accepts it. You know, you have to have
we don't have to have a vote? Oh, because, okay, so Gary,
just the board takes a vote.
okay, well, that's fine with me. Gary
So we,
had said we needed a motion
so
to
do
vote.
I have to motion something as the board member?
Yeah, the board can, and approve it right then and there.
Okay, so I motion that we accept the 3 nominees on the nomination.
Just
Second it.
Well, I make a motion, we accept the 3 nominees, but that we continue to look for more diversity in the nominating committee.
I think that you're so lucky to have 3 people on the
I
nomination.
I'll browbeat a neighbor.
This is great.
No, I'll browbeat a neighbor.
Can we
Well,
vote?
Okay, so then, did we have a second of the,
I second it.
okay, so Kurt seconded it, just, all in favor of the nominating committee as
Yeah, go
nominated?
for it.
No, I want to find somebody,
Yeah,
accept
as-
these
The
3.
motion as amended.
And keep it open.
Yes.
Okay.
The motion to accept the nominating committee and to continue the search for more diversity on the membership. Okay, so
I just make a point that the committee nominates its own chairman, or you can appoint a chairman. Usually, the committee will create their own chairman.
Okay,
So among the 3, they will then decide who will chair the meetings.
okay,
And
all right, so does the board, all in favor of the amended motion to accept the committee?
Sure.
And you'll call the meeting.
You'll
You'll call the meeting, right?
I'll call it.
Any opposed?
We're,
No, no, great.
Okay, so we have a nominating committee seated. Is there any other new business that,
I just have a question, I don't know how to put it in. It has to do with our groundwater here, where most of us are all in independent wells. And it's come to my attention through a lot of different things that there's, you know, I've run into many people who have bladder cancer. And one of the potential triggering things for that is apparently arsenic in groundwater. And I noted that at an environmental meeting that I went to over at CBL last month, that places like the water company at the Ranch Club scrubs the arsenic from their groundwater so that they reduce the arsenic that's in their groundwater. And I know that it's from a deeper aquifer than we use for our individual wells, but I wondered if there's any way that we can have some of our water tested in our community for arsenic.
I can call.
May I comment?
Sure.
Calvert Water, that has my pump under contract and so on, they will test your water, no problem. You just, take a bottle of it up there and they'll test it for you.
Take it to
For free?
where, Lynn?
For free.
Really?
Where?
Oh, yeah.
Cover well drill?
Calvert Well, yeah.
Well drilling?
Yeah,
That's- yeah, on the left.
before, on the left going up, yeah.
Just
On the
right
way
down the
to
road.
Prince Frederick,
Yeah.
Yeah, on the way to Prince Frederick.
on
Isn't
the
that
left-hand
cool?
side.
Isn't that
Yes,
cool?
Yeah, it is. yeah.
Gribble's right here.
I just drop off at his house.
Okay.
I didn't know about that.
Okay.
It's like you go into town, you put your little thing in the,
That's right.
you put
Hey,
your little jar in.
don't mix up those samples.
You're pregnant.
Your well is pregnant.
Okay. Well, So, what would you suggest?
Oh, I'm just wondering whether as a community we should do that, or whether it's up to an individual, because mostly we all draw from the same aquifer.
Mhm.
Our water's from the same aquifer, I just wonder if maybe you could find some way to put together a sample of our community and take, a quantity of sort of a statistical sample
Kind
of people, throughout our community to find out.
Which of the board
Are
members?
we all in at the Patapsco
No, we're all in the Piney Point.
Piney Point?
Well, how would we
How deep is
organize
that?
that?
How would we, what?
What if each board member brought a sample in, or, we're diverse where we all live, and then I could,
So we could do
Very
that.
good.
and take them.
And
Perhaps we could ask for volunteers in the community so we can get a very broad area of our community. Ask people to provide samples and also make sure that we set up some guidelines like whether it's going to be cold water, hot water, that should be cold water. And let your water run for a certain amount of time to flush out your lines completely so that you're really getting a good sample of what the groundwater is.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point, because when these water tests are done, for example, a house is sold and the water's tested, you sort of have certified people who come and do that, and they go through procedures as you're describing. So, the water sample, if we just sort of say, oh, hey, everybody bring in a water sample, it really wouldn't necessarily be
We want
valid test.
as much accuracy as
Yeah,
Yeah.
so maybe it's something are you kind of suggesting, Kurt, that maybe it's something that
I'm
we
just
should
wondering if we
do?
should just, call attention to it and maybe put together a plan of our own
Yeah,
and come up with a sampling program. I mean, Ria's idea is fine. as far
But I
as I'm
think-
concerned.
We also should check and see what kind of tests they do. I mean, if they test water, there's all kinds of tests.
that's right.
Are they testing for arsenic? Are they testing for other types of pollutants? We don't know.
Bacteria.
we need to start investigating this as something. Also, I've been told to test water, you shouldn't test it from the faucet. Especially, I have a whole house water filter on, so by the time it gets to my faucet, that you need to go down to where the water comes into the tank, and you can get a sample from there, that's directly from the well. So that has to be, I think, adhered to get the accurate sample. So somebody could put out guidelines for that. Or somebody could even do it if people are intimidated by the
And instructions.
Yeah,
instructions, yeah.
yeah, so Rita, did you want to?
I could call Calvert Well and get the guidelines. They obviously would know.
See if they have suggestions. The other thing is maybe to call the county health department and find out what they might suggest as far as a
I
program.
think it's
So,
a great idea.
I know the University of Maryland Health, Environmental Services up there does test.
okay,
But I don't know if they just do it, if you can walk in and ask them to do it, or it has to be done through, some special type of request or order.
okay. Well, I guess as a board, we'll do a little bit more looking into this.
I just have always lived the dream of water systems, which can be bad if you get the idea that there's something wrong. We're not implying there's anything wrong with the water.
Right.
We're investigating because of anecdotal evidence that there are things elsewhere that are causing problems that we're testing as a precaution, that there's nothing wrong with the water.
We're not aware of anything.
Because if you start to talk about there's something in the water, I guarantee you that the thing will go high and right very fast, and people will think there's something wrong with the water, when there really isn't. And it was.
That's a good point.
Okay, so.
Although there was already an article in the Recorder last week about arsenic in water supply further up county.
Mhm.
I mean, I know it's in there because, the water analysis by,
That's Dunkirk, and that's the city water supply. So,
but they're from a different aquifer than we are.
Yeah.
But really, I think as a homeowner all these years, I've always wondered about well water and how you test it unless you're selling your house. People don't seem to test the water at all. So I think it's great as a community to do it on a regular basis if we're all from the same aquifer. I mean, there's nothing wrong with verifying every 5 years or something that your water is okay. So I think you could look at it that way.
Just something I was curious about,
Yeah.
because I know from reports from either USGS, my former employer, or else Maryland Geological Survey, who's tested water, that we do have arsenic in our groundwater. It's just a concentration.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so
That's
we'll,
naturally occurring.
Correct.
sure.
So,
Nobody's trying to get us.
No one's injecting it.
you never know. but
Injected wells.
The Russians.
Again, you know, our recharge point is well north of us, so that's
Okay, good. Well, I think
Anyway,
that's a discussion
just
point
a
for us. Yeah, we'll definitely do a little bit more looking into it. All right, so then that brings us on the agenda to public comment period. So anyone who would like to make comment will recognize, the chair will recognize you, and I guess, you know.
Okay, it's not a comment, it's more of a question.
Sure.
The contract that you let for snow removal,
You're along.
is that the same contractor that had it last year? Okay, he was good. The year before, he was terrible, so you did go back to the good guy we had last year.
Same guy every year.
Okay.
Oh, same every.
I think though that he does periodically hire his own drivers, well, he does hire his own drivers. And I suppose if he has a new driver one year, that driver may not be as familiar with Drum Point as those who have done it a number of years.
So if he takes out your mailbox.
Right. And that's happened a few times, but they always make amends for those kinds of incidents.
It is the same guy we had
It's
last
the
year.
same guy we had for
This is
several
good.
years.
They have put in, John, did you all put in some new markers for this?
yeah, Gary said that they put in markers for snow edge, at those areas where we traditionally have problems with leaving the roadway.
With the snow plows sort of going over and over the same spot, causing sort of a rut to form. So
But
they
you-
put up some new markers as far as.
But you
that
did
goes.
say you're putting markers up where the speed bumps are, so they know
We
where
don't
the.
have
We don't have speed bumps.
Okay, you have things that are almost equivalent to speed bumps, okay.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing I wanted to know about is the view of the lakes. The lakes are a very good part of Drum Point. Everybody, I know I do. I come by two lakes to get home to my house. The gentleman who has been doing road edge work, he's been doing a very good job of road edge and maybe 6 inches behind any barriers that were there. But the two lakes that I go by behind or further, closer to the lake is really growing up. I would ask maybe he could go in a little bit deeper with his removal of stuff, okay? And you did say,
Can I just say that, I'll certainly ask him to do that, but our equipment is all going in for its yearly maintenance, so it might take a little time.
oh, yeah.
All those trimmers and so on.
I mean, you know, the leaves are going now, so you get view and no
Yeah.
problem, but,
Right.
okay. And the other thing I wanted to be sure I understood is the contract that you left for snow removal was the same guy as last year?
Yes.
Okay, he did a good job, okay, good, thank you.
Could I ask a question on snow removal?
Sure, go ahead.
Last year, the guy who removed the snow from in front of my house has a commercial snow remover. I mean, this guy has a big truck,
Right.
and he has a load of sand and salt along with it. But anyway, I met him because he came down, and I live on a narrow street, and when he got down there, he went away and he didn't really finish, he kind of backed out.
Right.
Came back, you told him to come back and see me later, and I got him out on the road and I showed him where to put the snow. That's what he really wanted to know.
Right.
But is he just one truck that he
No.
uses for the entire?
No, it's
Oh, you have several?
Wes Grover's Landscape is who does it, and he has several drivers.
Okay.
And as I said, I think sometimes, if he's hired a new driver, they come through at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they can't,
Yes.
if they're not familiar with the neighborhood, if they're new, or if they just can't tell where to put the snow in various areas. But they always come back, as soon as we can get them out here, they'll come back that next day and try to correct anything.
I like that idea where you ask him to come on back, because
Right.
it was great talking to him. He appreciated it, it only took him minutes
Right.
So once you told them where to dump it, you don't worry about it.
But keep in mind, the company, Grover's Landscape, might have a brand new driver this year, and the same kind of thing can happen. What we do is each year go through, I have a map and like X off some of the little problem spots, and then go over that with them preceding the, previous to the next season, as it's coming on. So hopefully those kinds of things don't happen year in and year out, but new driver, 2 o'clock in the morning, it might. So just call me. Even if it's a really bad snow and I work from home, I always monitor the phones and email. So call and leave a message. And then I'll call Wes.
What I liked is when he left, starting with my house, he was spreading the salt and sand on the way out. I thought, well, this guy's really neat.
Very good.
Good.
I'd like to hear from the new people who are here.
All right.
Totally.
Our turn. Okay, we're Kevin and Karen Hansen, and we filmed a home right outside the gate here. And we kind of smirked and talked about dumping yard waste and so forth on empty lots because our lot was apparently a go-to lot.
We only learned that after we hired someone who's been there all week hauling dead stuff away. And one of the neighbors said, oh, well, we've been dumping stuff there for years.
But anyway, we're very taken with the community here and the beauty of the beach and point, and I'm just very happy to be here.
Welcome.
And you're living here full time, or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you're here full time?
That's even better, retired.
We are finally,
Wow.
yes.
What's your first names again?
Tim and Karen Hansen.
Hanson.
Yeah.
With an E-N or O-N?
Ian.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Yes. By the way, my maiden name was
Welcome.
Larson, too.
Good, E or O?
E.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, we won that one.
These Scandinavians are very sensitive.
It does make a big difference. I grew up in.
We're very quiet, but we're very quiet.
Very quiet.
Very quiet, what was that? Oh, and I guess I would mention too that we found out that not all poles do belong to SMECO, because the construction of our house was delayed for a month when SMECO had to talk to Verizon because the pole in front of our house belonged to Verizon, and they couldn't put a new transformer on it until so everything just was on hold for a month while they talked. So not all do belong to SMECO.
But they all have tags on them that says who they belong to.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Oh.
That one got an individual number.
I don't know, but I can attest that
Well,
that was a problem.
it belongs to Smecco now.
Well, very good, well, welcome. Thanks for speaking up. Any other comments? Ralph, do you want to say anything about the meeting of the COG?
Yeah, we are having a meeting down here we're having a Christmas party actually tomorrow tonight. So any of you or a number of your members, Tim and Karen, or potential new members are going to be here. We're going to have a little dinner. So anybody who is interested, please come on down. It starts at 6 o'clock. We're going to have a short meeting, and then it's going to be a potluck. So a lot of good food. Bring what you want to drink. Sodas and coffee are provided, but if you want something a little more interesting, more than welcome, bring it. But hope to see you.
Good. All right.
And I will say one other thing, that we had the joint activities we held, 4th of July and the air show thing, and both of them went off really well. So we're probably going to do them again next year. And hopefully the weather will cooperate, and if the Blue Angels will actually show up next year. But it was really nice.
Yes, absolutely.
It's actually the following June, I believe now.
Oh, it's going to be in June?
I think it's going to be June or July, yes, not next, not 17, but 18.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be a much shorter cycle, but it's good, we're moving it back to early in the year because, believe me, arranging for an air show in October is very difficult because of the fiscal
Yeah.
requirements of the government, so we're getting it out of the end of the year and into
Okay.
different time of year. Also, it may fix the problem with the Blue Angels in the schedule,
Hopefully.
so.
But we still had a good time. The food was good. We changed it into an Oktoberfest, and we had music and food, and the day was a very nice day, and everyone had a good time.
Absolutely.
Just remember when you work for the government that October 1st may or may not be a good day.
Do we have budget or
Depends,
no?
depends. Do we have a budget or not? Do we have a continuing resolution? Are they gonna fight about appropriations for the next 6 months?
We have a continuing resolution until April now,
Yeah,
so.
right.
Okay, all right.
President signed it soon.
Well, if any other public comment, if not, I'll ask if there's a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning the meetings? Raise your hand.
Good.
Opposed? No, I think we're adjourned.